Watch this video with our virtual reality glasses for smartphone. virtualvisor.com.
We have one English-speaking speaker here and 6 more speakers talking for you about sound and vision, spatial audio in space and virtual reality. The 2 hosts are Heinsohn and Markus Schäfer.
Yeah, thank you very much for introducing us. So welcome to our session. We're very happy that you joined our session here due to the big offer that the entire festival gives. So back to us, we're Markus and Ralf. We're both producers for immersive media for quite a while, and we have been working a lot with 3D audio and in various formats, mostly in physical space, but also in touch with VR, so headphone-based 3D audio. And when we stumbled about the festival, we thought it would be good to have a good compilation of experts who are working with 3D audio with different approaches, from technical approaches over conceptual approaches to very hands-on practical experiences. And yeah, to give you a little overview, I'm starting with Rene, back there in the left. Rene Rodigast is the business manager at the Fraunhofer LMT in Ilmenau in Thüringen. And he's been doing research and application development and business models for 3D audio. And he's at the moment distributing various licenses for business models for 3D audio. So he has more like a research technical background and representing the business kind of model bit. Then we have Charlie Morrow from Morrow Sound from New York and Helsinki. I'm very happy to have you here because you, being a composer and sound designer, and you developed and patented the Morrow sound system, which you will probably drop a few lines about. And also, yeah, you have a little focus on the scalable versions, especially for AR and VR. And then I'm handing over the microphone to Markus.
Exactly. We jump to your very right side, to Pierre Brand. Pierre is running a studio here in Hamburg called Primetime Studio with 3D audio facilities. Pierre is a musician, a studied musician, and he toured as a bassist, finding out that the money-making side is probably on the other side. So he changed and became an audio engineer. Worked for several studios until he founded his own studio, Primetime Studios, as I said. And he is specialized in 3D audio for dome productions. For those of you who don't know that, you know, we're talking space and VR. We're not talking the space up there. We're talking spaces like this room or spaces like a dome, like in a planetarium, where you can experience 3D audio probably at a very good level at this time. And so Pierre is primarily focusing on that at the moment. Next one on the panel, who is not on the board up there, our very special and spontaneous guest, Tom Ammermann from New Audio Technology. Tom also runs a studio here in Hamburg and has a company called New Audio Technology. He has over 15 years of experience in the area of, and now take a look at that word, binaural headset virtualizations.
Headphone virtualization.
Headphone virtualizations. And apart from that, he's a music producer, and we'll probably learn a little bit more from him about a very special 3D audio production that he's just been doing for Kraftwerk. I think we can talk about that now. Officially. So that's Tom. Welcome.
Thank you.
And finally, there should be Lars. Sorry for the delay. Lars Ohlendorf, and the man in blue up there on the panel. Lars is a sound effects editor and composer for moving picture with a strong focus on brand communication. He studied recording arts and time-related media with a research focus on perceptual psychology and neuropsychologic principles of the acoustic design. By now, he works as a creative director at Brand Sound Agency, and he still runs his own 3D lab, audio lab, Elb Studios, here in Hamburg as well, specialized in 3D audio productions for media installations and VR. Now, when I read your brief bio, I was very psyched by perceptual psychology and neuropsychologic
sounds big, doesn't it?
Acoustic design. That blew me away, and I'm so happy that, and don't jump up and run out right now because it doesn't get that scientific, but Lars, I'm handing it over to Lars now because he has a little keynote prepared for us, and after that we directly jump into the discussion. Lars, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Do I need a microphone? Or do you hear me? I need a microphone. I don't need one? No, it's fine? Okay, it's better. Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Please allow me to have it in writing. I will otherwise talk for hours and will be boring like hell. Yeah. 3D audio, the big buzz. Let's break that thing. Let's destroy it. I think it's a good opener. In many ways, the technologies and the approaches that are summarized with spatial sound, immersive or 3D audio, are a complete waste of time and money. Yeah, doesn't mind. I will tell you why. And speaking of dashing expectations, I will also talk about expectations. I would like us all to take a step back and take a look at catch a glimpse at the bigger picture. Yeah, that's great. The bigger picture is always something you tell when you want to imply that you really know what you're talking about, or just pretend. So awesome. Spatial sound. Well, alone sound already is a topic that for me is almost completely about perception and a little bit about technology. As you will all know, our ears are far away from being accurate. Our ears do not transmit the whole thing. Our ears just do a frequency range about 16 Hz to 16 kilohertz, which is pretty awesome, but well, it's just an excerpt of reality. It's not the whole thing. Our ears manipulate the sound. They physically emphasize some frequencies, attenuate others. Our cochlea, our inner ear, translates movement into electric impulses, and that happens statistically. So, stille Post, like we call it in German, whisper down the lane. This means a heavy loss of information and sometimes even falsification. Our auditory cortex, finally, or listening brain, weighs the containing information. It checks what might be important for you. So, like perhaps the sound of a tiger or a poisonous snake or your mother or something. And if a certain category of sound is familiar and important to you, you will most probably hear that sound once it emerges. And vice versa, if you do not know it or it's not important to you, you will most probably not hear it. So our listening apparatus is interpreting the incoming sound for us before we can even assess it. And that's a complete unconscious process. And therefore we can consider our ears, and that's my point, we consider our ears a medium. A medium that stands between the world and our consciousness. And yes, Marshall McLuhan applies here. The medium is the message. And what you hear is, so to say, what you hear is not the world. What you hear is yourself listening. And including all the alterations, manipulations, and of course expectations you might have And there we are, expectations. What you hear is not the word, what you hear is what you expect. And that might explain, for instance, why everybody around you tells you how gorgeous you are. They don't. You just want to hear that, or I want to hear that, yeah. And that's a very important thought, and I'd like to make it stronger. Listening expectation beats reality. Let us take a look at spatial sound from this perspective. In early cinema times, you've had just one single speaker in the room. And still, most households today have TVs with just a single speaker in it. Does that compromise our immersion, our aesthetic, spatial pleasure of watching a movie? Of course, it does not. Because our brain is capable of doing a magic trick. It takes one visual object and one acoustic, one audio object, and combines them, synthesizes a conjunct audiovisual object out of them. So you hear the car from the left, despite the sound of the car comes from the center. You hear it from the left because you see it there and therefore expect it there. So expectation beats reality. Today in early VR times, let's call it that way, we have nice, wonderful cubes and balls, and we can move them around in virtual space. That's awesome. And they make sounds too. And we can exactly associate a sound when we hear it with a single object in virtual space. And that's not because we would hear that. Still, the localization quality of binaural transcoded audio, sorry Tom, it's like, well, in VR it's not that great. So again, you actually hear the sound where the virtual thing is because you expect it there, because of the combined visual and acoustic cue. Again, expectation beats reality. And another one, ever had this one dream piece of equipment, of gear that you could not afford, cost like many thousands euro or something like that. And once you have the possibility to actually test it, you look at it, you touch it, it's precious, and the sound, of course, you don't find the words because it's so great and blah, blah, blah. And it's like you truly, never truly made or heard music before. You ever had this gear. And believe me, this thing felt completely different, of course, if it was a bargain, if it was a Thomann mail order return or something, or a 99 euro thing. So in this way too, expectation beats reality. And I mentioned information loss earlier. At the Hamburg University of Applied Science, my fellow students did research once on how many discrete sound objects you can actually hear in a 3D soundscape. And it showed that no single subject could identify more than 5 objects per time in 3D sound. And these were our audio professionals. Only 15% of the subjects were able to discern more than 3 objects. And that's not much. So let's summarize and let's polarize a little bit. First, nobody really needs spatial movement in sound. And people totally get along with mono most of the time. It's nice to have at best. Second, nobody is able to discern more than 5 sound objects at a time if he or she is an audio professional. And most don't manage more than 3. And my third point, people hear what they believe they hear. So why the hell spatial sound? Why the hell do we need like 40 discrete speaker channels? Like I mentioned earlier, the 3D audio can be a complete waste of time and money. But still I'm convinced that this approach is actually the best thing that we have in audio engineering and audio industry. Perhaps since the invention of electroacoustic reproduction at all. Because there's one very, very good added value for me. The spatial resolution of a multi-speaker, multi-channel system is way better than if you have only one channel, or let's say mono. The sound is just so beautiful. You never heard things like that before, and 3D sound is much more enjoyable than stereo ever was. And yes, you're all super smart and say something like, yeah, I think so because I expect that. expectation beats reality and things. But no, that's why exactly why you do listening tests in the studio and comparisons. And there's been no situation, especially in music and field recordings, where spatial sound with at least 8 discrete channels wasn't way more detailed and dramatic than stereo, of course. And this listening benefit is so big, so exceptional, that any audio nerd that's out there, and I'm definitely one of them, goes like, wow, 3D audio, yeah, let's do it. And our challenge now, of course, is not to go completely nuts and push every sound through space all the time like they did in early stereo. Like one sound hard left, one sound hard right, or even better, jumping around all the time. No one needs that, and there's no, almost okay, perhaps there might be an aesthetic purpose for that, but most often it's not. So our challenge is to create art that truly benefits from this great technology, and not to be misdirected by all the opportunities it has to offer. If stereo has a very artificial recording, very artificial spatial imaging, think of 3D audio as some kind of super reality. In my opinion, for music recordings, it's like the real thing. It's like to really listen to a band or an orchestra right in front of you, but better. So, and it also makes sound reinforcement in concerts and theaters more enjoyable. And even headphone listening is better, despite all its localization problems. And yes, both in linear and non-linear world. And my expectation is that 3D sound is going to have a deep impact on the way we create art, the way we think art, and the way we consume art in time-related media. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to add? Okay, I'm pretty sure that we could go into detail right now. But before we do so, I would like to give you a little overview by asking each one of you just to give you 3 lines, probably 3 sentences on what kind of 3D audio projects you currently work on, just to be down to earth. So do you want the microphone?
I take this one.
They all have.
Hello. My main line of work is 3D audio in a more narrative and fictional domain. We just did a bunch of audio plays, which is quite difficult because you have a lot of speech connected to it. The ear is very sensitive as far as speech is concerned. Music is not that much of a problem. And as Markus already said, I'm doing dome productions, which are also narrative. And we do have things flying around, but I absolutely agree. It's the content, it's the script, it's a dramatic. You can't have things flying around all the time because it sounds rather stupid.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific project that you could mention, or like?
Well, can I talk about it, Markus?
No.
No. Well, we did 3 parts of Drei Fragezeichen with the 3 question marks. It's an open for planetariums that was quite successful, and we work a lot for the planetarium Hamburg. Most of the time, unfortunately, what we're getting is 5.1 stems, which is sort of, we can work around with that, but it would be much better to have individual tracks, but they would probably take too much time and they're not available at the moment. But I'm sure as time goes by, and we're using Spatial Soundwave at the moment, as time goes by, we will have a lot more content where we can do a lot more detailed work.
Okay, thanks.
That was nice.
Yeah. Okay. I'm developing a virtual VR showroom for a high-end German high-end furniture manufacturer, and yeah, with 3D sound involved.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my experience is I was a 5.1 producer since 15 years. In headphone visualizations very deep, and did a lot of masterings and encodings and upmixes for well-known movies for Blu-ray productions and DVDs, and still I'm a software developer, so we create software where you can create in your DAW anyway which DAW you have. You can do 5.1, 10.1, 22.2, and I also work with these tools. It's a spatial audio designer who also gives you the possibility to work on virtual speakers, so you can on the go work on a 22.2 mix or 9.1, 5.1, whatever you want, in different virtual studios. And we still use this tool for creating, Markus mentioned this, Kraftwerk 3D. So Kraftwerk, you know Kraftwerk, the grandfathers, grandmasters of electropop, create all the content they ever create in new 3D. In 3D, we mix that new, so it's not a remastering, although there's no rapper who's rapping a little bit or no DJs. It's just a new mix of the current sound you know from the concepts overall on the world. And it is created in Dolby Atmos, and it is available for now on a Blu-ray, and there are some other releases we plan, or they plan, for the future.
We are developers of our own 3D sound software because we're content makers. Our business began first with creating museum installations that were pervasive. Our systems are on mostly permanently, so they include content management over long periods of time, and they involve creating a full immersive space. So we're working as well in hospitals, workplaces, multi-zone workplaces. We work as well in concerts. We work as well in corporate headquarters, and particularly entrance experiences, people coming in and out of retail. We did the Marimekko stores around the world. We've worked in almost every kind of a meeting place, and hotels as well. So it's a wide variety of things, as well as mixture with media of projection, large-scale public events. So that we deal with the projection of sound on large areas. We can create very granular 3D sound experiences in any size space, and therefore we work in VR. Our system is totally scalable. We can create something small or large with staying within the same system. Our work currently is with the Ravana system from Montreal. They do AR and VR with a head-mounted device. We have integrated with the Oculus, and we are working mainly with systems that are very clear, because our audio is totally clear. It's high-end audio. We record never less than 48K, so that the sound is totally crisp and clear, and the sound can stand apart. You can hear the space as well as what we would call the sounds themselves, although space itself is a sonic phenomenon.
Yeah, we are, as from Morrow, we give licenses on our patents normally in the background. We're working on a software development, and actually we support different projects of our licenses. One of them was I came from Basel in Switzerland. I was there on Tuesday in a jazz club. It's very small club, and they want to include a 3D sound system to improve the club acoustics there. They play normally with very slow reinforcement, and we add 3D sound in this club. And also next project will be in Turkey. There is a big cultural palace from Mr. Erdogan, and we equipped this big palace with 3D sound for conferences, for music, also with a room simulation system to make a reverberation in this room. And also next project after that will be the Mali Theater in Moscow. It's the little sister of the big Bolshoi Theater. Also this will be equipped with 3D sound. That means we are in big projects with this with our licenses, and also in New York City, there's a big rental company, Mask Sound, and they're doing all the Broadway productions, and we have a system there in New York City to give also the object-based sound for the Broadway productions.
Now that's a vast usage for 3D audio. I want to highlight a little aspect. A couple of weeks ago I read this very interesting interview where a wise guy said that you can't destroy a film by poor quality of the video, but you can surely destroy it by poor audio quality in terms of immersion, in terms of the experience itself, or as a whole. Now the question, Pierre, to you in the very first place, what to you is the real strength of 3D audio? Is it a good new revenue model for you, or is it, you know, you're producing dome movies? Is it, as I said, it needs to be accompanied by good sound to make it a real immersive experience, or, you know, yeah, what is it? What is the strength?
Well, where to start? When I first worked with this spatial sound, which is basically an object-based system, I made the same mistakes when I started with 5.1. I just made too much. I just tried to put in too much content, too much flying around, and that was a big mistake. At the moment, I think I used 3D audio to try to put people into a room, because my audience, or the audience where for the producer I produce for, I mix for, they use headphones, they use real rooms, and some rooms are good, some rooms aren't good, and we have to try to get the audience surrounded by the sound. And as I already said, I usually try to work in the domain of real life, basically, and that in that domain you really have to watch that you overdo it, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I think it's very valuable for the people to go into a room where you have 3D audio, 3D atmospheres especially, and you have a little bit of everything.
Okay, so I'm not sure if there's anybody else, if you would like to comment on that, the reason why, but I would go further and ask you, especially those who are involved on an everyday business model, for example, having clients, working for clients, there's always a hassle testing the content when you're producing, so there are iterations in production. Could you give a little insight on your very individual, let's call it a best practice model, and how to produce it, how to present it, how to perform with the client, and how to bring it to a success story? Do you have any idea on how to handle it, the beast? Pauli, would you like to bring it?
Yeah, we handle it all the time because our installations are pervasive. They're not short-term shows. We're not doing a Hirschspiel. We're mainly putting sound environments into places that never get turned off. And so we're regulating a kind of universe of sound. And the way we do that is we use prototyping systems. We have 8.1 prototyping systems. We have one on display here for our demo. It's also a production tool as well, so that people can get used to it. One of our most interesting jobs was the SC Johnson corporate headquarters in Wisconsin. The design company in New York, Applebaum, had a prototyping system and a screen with the sounds as we evolved them, and people could answer the polling. We did the same thing with the architect in London, and also at the client in Racine. So we had 3 prototyping systems with polling screens. That is because people would have to listen to the sound all the time. It's always on. We're dealing with a pervasive environment that's ever changing and completely envelops you. So that means you can't escape it. So if you dislike it, you really dislike it. And the most typical thing that we get is that over time, it's like a garden. If you have designed a garden and then there's this really nasty crow who's always coming, well, we have to gas the crow occasionally in our mixes, because some sound which was fantastic the first 100 times is by 101 completely unbearable. But that's our business model. Folks have to hear it and live with it in order to say, yes, we'll keep it. And our contracts involve refreshing the systems at periods of time in order to keep people happy. So it's a different business model from doing, say, time-based productions.
Pierre and Lars or Tom, would you like to comment?
Not comment. But to answer to your question in another way, because I think the main problem is to bring to the people. Nobody will buy a 3D system for home. Some will buy, and I think some more than 501. But I think the easiest way to show to the audience, to make them interested in, is the cinemas, the domes, and as well, of course, the headphones, because everybody listens with headphones. And this is an issue. I'm talking, I think, years about this to the music industry, and this is very, very difficult. But because they simply think in one dimension, in stereo. And if you say, hey, come on, think about, everybody is going around with a headphone. So if you create your content, it's not difficult. For a headphone application, so you have a new product in your store, you can sell the headphone version and the stereo version. So this is where the marketing guys always say, oh, that's good, something more to sell. And but this didn't help to bring this to the music industry mainly. So the film guys and the game guys much more open in that. But well, yeah. So I think one really important point is besides all these event and cinema stuff is to show the audience that a standard commercial headphone can sound crazy cool, so you can have an experience of hearing music in a totally new way. And this doesn't mean this is I think a mistake by the marketing as well as by the scientists to say, hey, we want to create on your headphone that you can listen to this there and this is there and this is there. This is a totally wrong approach. The approach shouldn't be to make a lot of sources, give them a good localization. The approach is to make it sound larger, more spatial, but not only spatial, because if you have music, you want to have a tight bass drum and drum kit, and with a bass who's very close to you, and maybe you want to have the background and the strings or something like that a little bit more further away. So this is more I would say the approach for creating headphone mixes for mainly for music. So to make it larger, give you a feeling of being there. And this is something I try to give this idea to the music industry, and I continue to do that. And some, as the Kraftwerk guys, understand this, and they still are technology leader because they bring it on the Blu-ray, and it sounds amazing.
Just checking. Lars, you want to comment on it or give a real best practice example?
Another point of view.
Another point of view?
Another point of view, if you like.
You're welcome. Or at this point, any questions in the audience that you would like to raise? That's not the case, then go ahead, please.
So from my point of view, is the best practice thing is a little bit more complicated, as I work mostly for companies, for brands, and the jobs are so different. You have to reinvent the wheel every time you start over. So it's like the question, what do you want to do, and why do you want to do it? What do you want to achieve? And on base of that, you have to choose the weapon of choice. Take the right weapon of choice, or whatever. So it's the question: is ambisonics the better solution, or is something? Well, there are situations. Or is it something like Morrow 3D? Is it Dolby Atmos in cinemas? It depends. You can never tell. You cannot go there and say something like, "This is the deal," and nothing else. So there are situations where, you go to your Max system and write something your own. So, and it's the question.
Rene, as a system developer in that area, what would you answer to that? He didn't even mention spatial soundwave.
Oh, sorry for that. Feel mentioned, please.
My experience in that, yes, we know all the systems on the market, and also we made a lot of tests on that. My experience with headphones is it works not really nice for me in person. Also on the IFA 2 weeks ago, I test all the headphone systems together with virtual reality equipment, and it doesn't work for me. That means it's
I agree.
Yeah, you know maybe why. That means we need more than a headphone for realistic 3D inclusion, and this is a psychoacoustical aspect. This is not. It depends not on a system. We need a little bit of distance from speakers to the ear, because we have maybe on a horizontal line a solution on 2 degrees just around us, and also in the vertical dimension we have 12 degrees. That means we need a loudspeaker on top of us, but we need a little bit more loudspeakers just around us. And this is depends not on the system. It's the psychoacoustical model of our ear, and to give the customer a realistic perspective in 3D sound. That's for me. It's quite normal to use sound objects and bring it to all positions in the 3D environment, and only with this you can have a realistic perspective. Otherwise, you have a channel, a speaker, and the speaker gives a speaker signal to you, and not a realistic perspective like in the nature. When you have a bird and the bird is flying over you, and the bird is crying, then on all positions the bird is crying. And this is what we have to bring to the customer. And this is then we want to have a good also a good perspective for 3D and sound.
I agree to the comment to that. I agree to the demos on the IFA. I heard them as well, and they were really creepy. But this is not the answer on headphone virtualization. So we are much further away. This was some virtual reality demos who use, some of them use first order higher order ambisonic. So there are other technologies who works much better for headphone virtualization. This is one point. And I think what is very, very important also not to compare, to say the headphones are a substitute for a speaker application. No, both has this right to live, because there are situations where you do not have such a speaker system, and this is where you can use headphone. If you have such a speaker system in a dome environment or something like that, of course you should use speakers, because a speaker is a good speaker environment, of course, has to be a good environment and good measured environment. Sounds always better as a headphone virtualization, of course. So what it is, each has its application, and the headphone virtualization technique works as good that we can say this is a fair substitute, and it opens a new domain, because you can, on a headphone virtualization, you can do a lot of things you can't do in reality. For example, you can work with speakers, virtual speakers, who are in different distances. what you never can do in a cinema, on a dome, or everywhere. So you can only do this in the virtual world, and this helps you to create totally new soundscapes on an application everybody has on the pocket here in the room. So
we have to cost less, but then we have to produce stuff which actually has to cost more because it takes a lot more time to produce it. And there's really a difference between headphones, which is a mass market product, and stuff we do for corporate productions or for planetariums, where the market is a lot less, a lot less numbers are there, and that's quite difficult to produce. But your question was something else, I guess. I just wanted to say that.
But it was important.
It was important.
You could mention it.
I think the most important part is to have good sounds to start with. It doesn't really help at all if you have a 3D audio system, you have crappy sounds. A lot of times stereo sounds don't help very much. For myself, I usually record my own ambiences in 8.0. Next time I'll do it in 10.0. So I have great ambiences around me. And the story is the key. For me, it's always the story. If the story sucks, then it will be difficult to make to produce a good mix, a good sound design.
Lars,
yeah, true. I think so too. Your first point, being expensive and thing. Well, I think the most important thing today is to have the speakers. You have to be able to listen it back. But
that's a given. You have to have the equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that.
So okay. No, I mean the speakers are not that expensive anymore.
No.
And well, if you choose for alternative paths, then Fraunhofer, there are other systems to get along. I think what is important for me was important is that you have someone who knows much more than you. Like for me, it was Ralf Kessler, who is here and helped me a lot and inspired me. And and on top of that, good sounds. You need good sounds and a good story. It's nothing more.
Ralf, that's your name?
Yes.
You want to comment on that?
Yes, I can. I think the most important thing for 3D audio is the point, is this immersion thing. That the technology can bring the listener or the viewer to another location. And this is the main difference to stereo. We did a research 5 years ago with 150 people, a perception research in the IBC. And it clearly showed, we showed the same examples in stereo, which is 1 dimension, in 5.1, which is 2 dimension. And the 3rd dimension is the head speakers. And it was clearly that for the genre movie, for instance, or for sports, we make it genre dependent. Over 80% preferred in that case 9.1 or 10.1 systems, so which hate speakers. It's much more that you would say if you just imagine a 3D system than if you experience a clever design 3D system. And before we go into argument, Auro, Atmos, sound wave, I would say the main point is the 3rd dimension. It's the hate speakers, and independent of the physical system, it will help that people are thinking they are there, and not the way around. That the music is in your living room. You can go to the concert hall, to the virtual concert hall, if it is clever designed, and it does not have to be too expensive.
No.
There are tools. Tom has some tools to offer. Everybody can do it with the regular Nuendo version, for instance. Nuendo is a Steinberg digital audio workstation. Since 10 years, they have a 3rd 5.1 layer. Since 10 years they have this panning tool, so everybody can do it actually with a Nuendo already, since 10 years. And I think Tom's tools are not so expensive, so you can convert any stereo workstation into a 3D production system.
I have to disagree a little bit, to some degree, because
Briefly, please.
very briefly, in the 80s or whatever, 90s, we started to convert Dolby surrounds into 5.1 using tools, and that we thought it sounded great, but in matter of fact, today I think you have a lot of phase problems. And if you just blow up a stereo signal, I don't think that sounds great.
No, I did not say blow
That
up.
wasn't the
Okay.
point.
Okay, I misunderstood you.
No, I talked about the real production.
Yeah, okay.
Channel by channel in the new panel.
Okay. Very briefly, Tom, coming back to Kraftwerk, your recent production, how time and cost consuming is it? Can you lift the curtain a little bit?
Yes, of course.
I mean, compared to a stereo mix.
I wouldn't say you need much more time, because if you work with a 3D environment, you have a really goal, because you don't have to deal the whole time with two speakers. You have so many speakers, so if you point something there, you just do it, done. So you don't have to deal with, the snare is a little bit too loud because the lead vocal needs to get a little bit louder, so you don't deal the whole time with two channels, so it makes it much easier and faster to create a mix in 5.1. And following these announcement or this statement, the graphic production took very long, but it doesn't depend to we work in Atmos. It depends to they work here, they change something here, and they have time. So we wasn't in time pressure. So mainly saying, I would say a 5.1 or 3D production needs maximum 20% more time and tools. We have a tool because I created in 2008 my first 3D mix for Sony Music Entertainment for 2 Blu-rays. I'm running crazy to create this in a standard 5.1 DAW. So it took this really needs much more time. And this is the reason why I invented this Spatial Audio Designer. This is a plug-in what the new audio technology creates, and you can put it in your DAW. You can start right away and mix any format you want.
I'm sorry for cutting in the formats and the specific softwares. Actually, we had planned a little controversy in different formats and compatibility, because I guess that would raise some controversy. It might be interesting for our audience. Spectacular, probably. Actually, we're running out of time, which is a pity, because I think we could go on talking a lot. I just had a look at the watch. We're on 10 minutes left. And what I would like to do is just like involving the audience one if there are questions later on. But before that, probably each of one could give an individual outlook on what you envision 3D audio best for. If you had a wish come true, there's a fairy and asking you, what would you like to have been realized right now? Or where do you see 3D audio? So if you could focus that in a very brief version.
Okay. What I see in future, it's more and more the coupling from the video side to the audio side. That is very important, and all those things came from virtual reality and also from big screens. It needs the relation between the video and the audio, and it's independently of the technology. This is what has the technology solute in future, and yeah, we have done this as an example in Kiel in the Media Dome. They coupled a video system together with an object-based sound system, and they take the video object, bring it to a place in the space, and the audio object is coupled on this video object. And this is what I mean. In future, audio has to be where the video is like in the nature. That's what we have to realize.
Charlie, what?
There's an expanding field in immersive sound. For me, it's very important because as a musician, many of my colleagues could not find work as a musician. And now there's a possibility with the immersive sound field, particularly all of us are seeing growth in it. Our company has doubled its business twice in the last 2 years, and we're seeing even more projects coming. We're already global, and I think that that's the future for musicians, to learn how to, and cinematographers, to be able to create immersive media, because if it's used in healing, it's used in education, it's used in all of the areas beyond entertainment, such as daily life, architecture, models, and so forth. You can improve the world with that many more professionals who have been trained to think with their ears and their minds together, or their eyes, ears, and minds together. So I encourage the development of a professional literacy, and we in the International and Planetarium Society are offering a course called Immersivity 101. Tom Kraup just asked us to do that, and I think that his vision is correct. It's education that we need, because the more educated people are, the more people will want, and it's a cycle. It's a cycle.
Thank you, Tom. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a very important point. I try always to give this information to students at, for example, the SAE, to say, hey guys, there's totally new playground where you can find jobs. So jump in, do your experiences. It's not expensive. So jump in, try out and try to find new work in the planetarium, in the film industry, and hopefully in the future in the music industry, as well as in industry itself. So there are a lot of possibilities and opportunities in this new area. And I think for now we have in the cinema, I think Dolby Atmos will will win the race. At home, DTS, Atmos, a little bit Morrow, I think, but mainly also Atmos, because Dolby is so huge and so big, so it's not easy to fight against them. And I hope we have all these event applications who are very important. This is a little bit a special field where I don't think Dolby and DTS will not so big in. The game industry the game and the VR industry will be very interested in this VR stuff, so virtualization for headphones. So there is this is a new playground where we can do a lot of things. And finally, I hope we can bring also to the music industry these immersive headphone mixes, because I don't think we don't have so many real 3D speaker systems at home.
Lars and Pierre, on top of that question, the very final one.
Another question. Oh,
another one.
Too bad.
Probably can combine.
So, in which businesses, of course, will 3D audio be broke through in the future? But on top of that, looking at that particular future, and you mentioned it in your keynote, which challenges need to be overcome? So that question goes to the two.
I would say standards. We gotta have some standards.
On the other hand, it's nice to have this variety.
Right, but
Yeah, of course you're right.
One could agree to some sort of a standard to have a broader distribution of formats.
Yeah.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be small all the time.
And I have this one idea that's about the last question too a little bit. So I'm happy. It's as I'm working quite a lot for with games engines like Unity or something like that. You get the idea that it will be more and more like you have content production, like sound production, sound assets, more like that. And I think this will be in music, perhaps sometimes eventually this way, that you have sound assets, like instruments, single tracks, and a machine that makes it. Like
very interesting.
It's called a renderer.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and you have your stems, put it in a renderer, in some kind of upmixer thing, Well, and that's the mix. So the engineering gets a different job, I think.
I think you put your finger on a very important point. I don't believe that we will have a standard because we have a big market player who wants to bring their proprietary standard into the market. They are absolutely not interested.
Compatibility.
Nobody in the industry is interested in compatibility. Only the broadcasters and the post-production. But he gives the answer to that. Don't care about the standards. Create something that works for every standard. So this is also the object approach to say, hey, we have an object content creation tool, and we render whatever happens. So if we have an Atmos system, it's rendered on an Atmos system. We have a Soundwave system, it's rendered on a Soundwave system. Or we have your system, it's rendered on this system. So it works on any system. This is what we have.
You hear my trouser ringing?
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure hearing you.